All right, thank you for your patience. It's 12:35 now. I would like to welcome everybody again to this session. My name is Yemi Yohumi. I'm with the iFoundation Hospital Group. Thank you for joining us on this lecture with the 8th in the series of the Founder Series with the theme Building and Maintaining a Sustainable Eye Care Institution in Sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you for joining us. I'll just run through the rough agenda and then we can get on to invite Dr. Hassan to give us his talk for today. Our house rules normally is for people to kindly keep their microphones muted and also turn their videos off. This is to prevent undue distractions and while we listen to the lecture. We also ask that people can post their comments or questions in the comments box, and all of this will be looked into or addressed at the Q&A interactive session. Now I would like to call on Dr. Harriman, the director of the Kunle Hassan Eye Foundation Academy, to do a brief introduction of the presenter. Thank you, Dr. Harriman, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Yemi. Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to the 8th lecture holding today. We've had 7 previous lectures. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, we've had 7 previous lectures in this series of lectures. But first, I'll introduce Dr. Hassan, who is the Chief Medical Director of the iFoundation Hospital Group. As we all know, he's an internationally recognized consultant, ophthalmic surgeon, and has been the recipient of several Lifetime Achievement and Excellence awards. He's achieved a lot in the field of ophthalmology, which we had mentioned before, and currently is the chairman, the board of management of Onobisi Onabanjo Teaching Hospital in Ogun State. Through the iFoundation Group, he has created a robust and sustainable infrastructure to drive his vision to eliminate avoidable blindness in Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa. This institution he founded continues to set standards for quality eye care and public-private partnerships for eye care in Nigeria. So this is the 8th in this series. The previous first lecture, all the lectures are online, starting from the iFoundation Group Nigeria as a case study, meeting the challenges of a startup in ophthalmology practice. And this can be applied to every other hospital, meeting the challenges of medical practice, especially in Nigeria. Building a crisis-resistant culture in an ophthalmic institution amidst a disruptive UCA environment. The 4th lecture was on the role of core values in shaping employee behavior for organizational effectiveness. The 5th was the political economy of eye health in sub-Saharan Africa. The 6th was on professional politics, which we all encounter, and eye care development. The last lecture was on strategic partnerships in eye health. Today, we're going to hear on how to bridge the gap in human resources and skills in eye care. So bridging the gap in human resources and skills in eye care. So you're welcome, sir. And we're eager to hear again what you have to say to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harriman, for your kind introduction. Today, I just been thinking of the human resources crisis we are facing generally in the country. The truth is, the great resignation is there, is real, and is happening. A lot of people post-COVID era are moving across, finding new level to gravitate to and make a difference in their life. The U.S. Department of Labor reported during the month of April, May, and June, quarter two of this year, about 11 million workers quit their job. And according to the Gallup research, about 1 in 4 employees are actively looking to make a change. And it's been projected that nearly 1 in 4 will do so in the next 6 months. People are looking for opportunity that we find, and they find ripe opportunities because they're new innovations and they're new ideas. And a lot of people have learned a lot during this pandemic period, how best to utilize their time effectively and also to get good reward for it. In Nigeria, well, we call it brain drain. The critical middle class of our institutions across the board are leaving the country because there's no future for them. A lot of opportunities outside there. There's a lot of job outside there that they can fill. So we can't blame them for it. I think the federal government must have had an insight into this when they asked especially the academic professionals, to increase their retirement age to 75 from 70 for male and 65 for female. So we have been in an area where a lot of geriatrics are holding the front to perform primary responsibility instead of them being role models and supporting the system. So definitely the crisis is getting worse. The question is, what does it mean to our organization? We suddenly find ourselves juggling between two pressing needs: hiring to backfill people who have left and hiring new people to support business growth. So the scarcity is real, and there are too few people for too many jobs. So the imbalance in supply and demand highlights more than ever that productivity is about people. Where do we find ourselves today? How are we going to survive the tide? We've got to find a way to stabilize our business in such a way that this tsunami of attrition will not affect the standard of practice, will not affect how we deliver our service, and how we can consciously and with determination to give our best to our patient. I would like to discuss just generally before coming to the real facts, because it's becoming more obvious that to stabilize our business, there are things we have to do. Let's look within. You know, do we really understand how to deal with our workforce? It's true, we can be lucky to bring in new ones in order to stabilize things, but will they stay? The time is gone where people stay on a job for a long time, they'll retire in the system. I think it's only the civil service in Nigeria that you probably find this, because there are a lot of kickbacks, corruption going on that make people to stay, not just on the job, but just to make the money. Well, what are we who are faced with these problems in the private sector, in the real demands? How do we handle this? So it's not just the job of the leaders alone or head of institutions, but the managers, the human resources professionals. We've got to look and see that we have a lot of uncertainty and change. and we have a lot on our plates. It's not just having the right people in the right with the right qualities and the right seats to get a job done, but can we really get it? When the best of the brains are leaving the country, when the most creative and dynamic younger guys are leaving the country, what is going to happen is going to go back to the 70s, the late 60s and 70s, where the best brain left the country, even among the mature professors in the industry, left of Saudi Arabia and other greener pasture, and we're left with mediocres in the system. And that was ruined the academics and the practices in Nigeria. With a better environment, a lot of people start coming back, and we're picking up. But suddenly, within the last few years, I think we're in a worse situation than what we were before. So how do we balance this? How do we take control? How do we make sure that at least whatever we have, we can still look at things? We can still keep running faster and faster. And in the process, we can exhaust ourselves, because it's difficult for us to control what is not under our control. However, let's control what we can, and that is ourselves. If you look at the rate of turnover in organizations and teams, we must look within ourselves and decide what is possible. Okay? What can we do to make a difference? What are the steps we should take as a leader to navigate this great resignation period? One, we must be aware of our own personal impact. As leaders, are we watching all the time, whether we realize it or not, that what we experience in a year-to-day activities in the organization, are we really in control? Are we looking at the larger picture of the interest of the people that are working with us? Most of these people who are stretching themselves daily are frustrated and they are stressed. What sort of message do we send to them in reality that we can relieve those pains? And we are aware that our own concern and probably our frustrations as we experience it is also being experienced by our team. And how can we help to manage this? Are we intentionally adding to their fear and uncertainty? Whereas, are we there to help them, to steer them in the right direction? Because if we panic and in our attitude and body language creates a situation where their emotional intelligence cannot cope with, then we may even see those that we have in the system leaving. So I think we should focus on potential and possibilities. We should look at how can we have our 75% retention and still attract more people to join the force. And we should know whether the strength of the people that are in the system, what do we do? We must be pragmatic, blended with possibility and gratitude and recognition what these old styles are going through. And when we bring in the new one, we'll also be curious what they're going to go through and get curious and ask, what do you envision that the best possible outcome of a situation? Is it real? What is the response we should give? What can we do to excite the dwindling workforce that we rely on and give them a sort of team feelings and let them communicate to them that they have impact and potentials and possibilities instead of uncertainty. So we have to build on their confidence. We have to make sure that we are no more throwing all the responsibility onto them, but we show empathy and understand the stress they are going through and share as part of that stress and create an environment whereby we all take the ownership together and prepare to do more, to be polyvalent in things we do, to learn more, and to introduce new skill with the understanding that they themselves will be happy that we're improving their lots and we're taking a recognition of their role within the system. The other thing we must look at is about communication, what we as leaders do. Which area are we creating unintended impact on those who are within the system that are ready to stay with us? For example, how do we react to people when they want to leave the organization? When we get this wave of resignation, do we feel rejected? Do we show behavior to make that the person that is leaving us is wrong, or we doubt their trustworthiness or integrity? Even though that may not be the case. But if we don't look at them, those who are leaving, and give them the embracement, accepting the resignation, and appreciate the value they've contributed to the organization where we are, they're with us. This behavior signal to the departing employee is very important because those who are left behind are also watching. So even when they're leaving, we must approach the transition with gratitude. It's helpful to realize the era of long-term employment is over, and with rare exception, employees within our organizations will definitely leave. And when they're leaving, let's create a relationship that has grown and evolved rather than view resignation as rejection of the relationship. We could begin to view it as an inflection point in its evolution, that things are changing, because these people might turn out to be an ambassador out there. They might not be in the country, they might be outside the country, or they might change job within the country. But if they leave with a sign of gratitude and appreciation of the value they've added to the organization, they will always be there to help us. And sometimes they will help us to get older people who will take over from them. So as we all know, the talent pool is tight, careers are long, and net of faces in the time of any of our employee, let's give them an end face with appreciation and gratitude. And they might be there for us in future when we need them. The other area we must look into, which is very common, especially in Nigeria, is lack of respect and given attention that some of the staff that are staying behind are not getting. So there's a shift in the market talent place. So we need to think of employees now like customers. We always talk about customer desire, the customer is always right. But if we pay thoughtful attention into retaining them, this might give rise to slow attrition within and help us to regain the growth curve. This might make them more receptive to new training, adding skills, and therefore taking over the job of those who are left and be able to manage the growth within our organization. So now, what seems to be most important is a reorientation for the leaders across the board, the managers, the HR across the board, a reorientation, a need for a change in mindset, okay? That we make sure that this does not happen, whereby we ignore in the fever of hiring new people and underappreciate the effort of those who keep the business moving. We cannot take them for granted anymore. We must look positively how we can take them, treat them as managers, as customers, and also make them be delightful in what they do. If we do that, they change their psychic, and actually they will transfer it back to the patients who are our customers. Having said that, there must be control. In any system, you cannot be 100% perfect. People are at different level of understanding, and you must learn to adapt to come to the level of those staffs at different levels in grade and evolve a system that will take care of each level according to their mental capability, according to their emotional intelligence, and how best you can get the best out of them. But one common factor is that everybody should not be taken for granted, even from the cleaner to the highest guy in the system. We must create a team that have the sense of belonging. So, to be able to do this, we have to put some steps in place. We have to recalibrate. We should be thinking, can we re-recruit them? Re-recruit them means sitting down and probably having one-to-one personal interview with them and get to know their aspirations and ambition. Talk to them again as you are taking them over. They will have gained a lot from the system, and they are not the people you employed before. Over the years, the organization has added value to them. And how can you capitalize on this value? Therefore, have an interview with them. Do a re-recruitment. Converse with them. As you're recruiting now into a new company with new vision, and you yourself as a leader might be the point where you begin to learn more about your organization. Because these people day-to-day deal with the organization, with the clients, and we as leaders sometimes are far away from them. These challenges we are facing, a human resources deficit, should let us think again of building a team. Let's spend time to understand their motivations and vision. Okay? Just as you do when you're hiring people into organization. Help them to see and claim positive impact they are making in the organization. Let's acknowledge them, what they're doing, and let's appreciate them. All the things they've done in showing up during difficult times, and let them feel that they're making a difference in the organization. So it's very, very important, and it should not be a one-time conversation. It's something that we should have, working with human resources and training our managers to have a talk and think all the time. And the primary focus of each manager and leader in the company should be this sort of change and gain in mind. 2, we must think of rewarding them. We must reward them accordingly. We must give them their worth. We have to think about the DNA structure of the organization, what we're doing. We must be willing to let go the past and play a long-term game in ensuring that these people are part of the system, they help to create the wealth, and we must reward them. Usually, it is not the monetary part of it alone. Research has shown that motivational effect of pay raise is short-lived. But recognizing and valuing the contribution and impact of they making to the organization is very important. And there are many ways we can take care of this, especially in Nigeria. You pay them fine. The taxman will get, the pension guy will get his own. At the end of the day, they have very little left. And when it's time for them to collect the pension that they hope they will rely on, cannot even pay their house rent because of devaluation. I remember when I was a young doctor, I did an insurance with Great Nigeria Insurance in those days, in the 70s, late 70s, for 20,000 naira. 20,000 naira. At the end of 25 years, would give me about, no, sorry, I was paying a premium of 20 naira in the 70s. And at the end of 25 years, it would give me 20,000 naira. When I came overseas in 79 to do my fellowship, I also had an insurance of 25 pounds. At the end of 25 years, all I got was 20,000 naira in Nigeria, and I got about 35,000 pounds here. At the time when I was making that investment, the naira and the pound was at par. Now, what will 20,000 naira do for me if that has been my contribution investment now? It can't even buy me a tire. Whereas in this country, the 35,000 pounds, when you multiply it to naira, you have a lot of millions, which can do a lot of things. So we have to think futuristically. We have to think how best can we release the fund, the raise, what sort of benefits we can give that is not taxable. What a benefit can we structure our paying system so that this guy have access to fund in order to manage their life. Some of them will get married. Some of them will have children. Some of them will like to send their children to school. And at a particular stage of life, they would like to have a roof over their head. Would they be able to do that within our organization? If an organization can put a process in place that can do that, it will make a lot. I remember the first generation of professors and doctors who were employed in those days in University of Ibadan when it was under the British system. On the maturity of the investment made for them for a pension then, which were made abroad, a lot of those professors got a lot of money and they were able to change their cars. They were able to have a better life. What are we thinking of as employer of labor to help those who have given a lot of their life into our system? We have to be having a sort of long-term game planning in terms of our company compensation philosophy. We should make it clear. It should be understood by all, and we can start now. And in return, we ask for accountability, so that just press current employees are not shortchanged. When new people are hired, they will ask for more money. So if you give them more money, what of the people who have been in the system? So you have to continuously review and recalibrating the compensation system to meet their need. It is very important. And I think every organization at this time that wants to survive should look into this. Maybe you start looking into quality and making good compensation instead of numbers and what we require to be able to achieve those ones. So these are fundamental things that I want us to look at. And we should not forget that we should always engage our staffs. They feel the pain as we do. And sometimes we should also know that we should ask for their help. As leaders, sometimes we think we have answer to all the solutions. No. We should encourage our staffs at different levels to come with, solutions. Listen to them. It gives them strength and confidence. It shows that we appreciate them, and the outcome can be better and more ideas can flow. And this will help in finding solutions to some of our organizations. So it is very important these days for us to continue to evolve, to continue to engage, to be pragmatic, and to see that we get the right person for the right job. We may employ somebody for a job. The person may have other talents that staff can exert. We must be able to watch them and help them to grow. Whereas if we have a square peg in a round hole, you might think that guy is not productive, it's not this. But if we notice the talent where we can help him to grow, definitely we get the best out of that staff. But if not, we watch them go. If we can help them to grow, you watch them go. So we should be in a position that whatever our insights and ideas that they're different from our own are embraced to the extent that we remain open to being surprised and delighted. That way of sharing and pave the way to the path that creates us deeper engagement and loyalty from our stakeholders, our teammates, our peers, our colleagues, their people directly report to us. We as leaders should be the way of opening the doors. When we open the doors, things will follow. So there's this definitely rethinking that must come into place, both psychologically, emotionally, to understand the danger we're likely to face if we keep managing our human resources the way we used to do in the past. I think all of us who employ our laborers should look at this, and we should critically think it. And if there's a need for an expert outside our system, we should call for help to help us restructure. And restructuring is not just laying off, it's not just conserving funds, it's not just reducing the number of workforce attrition and all these things. It is managing the people so that they can be effective and be proud of themselves and be part of an organization as a stakeholder and take decisions that will help the organization. So it's very, very important that we do not, I repeat, that we do not just feel that because so many people are quitting, we overlook those who stay. What we have are those who are in the system. And how best can we make use of them by creating that critical goal whereby everybody within the team feel their stakeholder and take ownership of the institution. Having said that, let's look at our prevention, the eye care. How do these affect us holistically? We look at the doctors. It's getting more and more difficult to get residents because a lot of them are leaving the country for a better future. Coincidentally, even in ophthalmology, when I look at the number of residents we've trained in Eye Foundation, I was amazed. A recent where we have a project I'm doing, the number of our residents that are abroad, even in UK here, and some in Canada, some in Australia. Those are residents we train. And the same resident, the same thing is happening across the board in other part of our profession. So what can we do to keep these doctors? I had opportunity to chat with some of our residents. I felt depressed when I see young guys be out of school for more than 7 to 10 years and they're still joining Okada to get to work. Sometimes as leaders, we just assume because what happened to us during our time is quite different. You come out of medical school, there are car dealers there, you get a car, you get a car loan, they give you good money for maintenance. And what? Maybe we still have that sort of feelings that things are all right. They're not. So we have to look into the remuneration and the package we give to these doctors. We have to see where mobility is important to them. They get into fellowship. I mean, they don't get their fellowship these days until they're 35, 36. Some are even at 40, still in fellowship program. Even in UK here, things are stretched. How long would they stay agonizing for being a doctor? And with their children seeing their parents would like to be a doctor. So unless we start looking at their compensation, not just the money they take home alone, the other things that should go with it. Would they be able to have a roof over their head? If they're doctors that are committed to the organizations and you know they have a long-term future, the organization should be thinking how much. Even in those days in the governments were giving us loan for houses, for things like that. I know it's gone now. The legislators are just sharing the money among themselves. But if we look critically, the possibility of giving these young doctors the opportunity to wave through the residency program, to earn a good living, to make sure their future is secured. And that comes into a model of compensation for the doctors. I don't believe that paying a doctor's salary after he has qualified as an ophthalmologist is the end of the road. No. And that's why most of them do not. And I'm sure some of us who are in government are out there doing their private practice. Because from what they get from government cannot sustain the aspiration for their families. So there's a need for us in the private sector and also preach it in the government sector to really share the wealth with the doctors. In UK here, as a senior registrar, you work yourself to death. By the time you get a consultant, become a consultant, it's great. You work in the hospital, you can do private practice, even within the hospital, and you know you're waiting for the opportunity to make your own money. I don't think Nigeria should be an exception. I think the consultant should be able to create the wealth and share in the wealth, and not just salary dependent. and also believe that a system should be made available for them to have access to the basic needs of life: transportation, a roof over their head, and enough to give their children good education. If we fail to do that, more of them will leave. I'm sure there are many of them patiently waiting for the opportunity to finish and leave. And even if we're not careful, some of them are even leaving during the residency. Same goes for the optometrist. The optometrists are moving out. I was looking at the British government on their website for the job requirement. Get there. All the jobs were there. Even now, if you're a good a driver, you probably can get a visa to come and drive the heavy vehicles. When we look through all those stratas, the number of everywhere people are looking for cheap labor. To them, it's a cheap labor, but to us, it's not. Somebody who's earning 30,000, 36,000 pounds a year, it translates to millions in Nigeria. We have to benchmark the payment of our doctors with that which is overseas. The margin should not be much so that it will not attract them with what they have, at least, and link with inflation will help us to retain some of these doctors and optometrists who are leaving. The nurses one, about 6,000 nurses left Nigeria within the last 6 months. So the critical shortage of these nurses. And those who are staying behind is either because there are factors that prevent them from going overseas. And if we are not careful, some of them will change from nursing position to more lucrative. And more of the nurses these days want to work with HMOs because the HMOs are paying them better. So we have to look at the nurses and have a long-term plan for them. There must be a well plan that at this level, you meet your productivity, your performance is good, you move to another level, and not defining what they can earn by what they have, but by their input into the system and how important they are. I see no reason why a nurse cannot earn as much as a doctor just entering the system. And the more they spend in the system, the more they give into the organization must be able to compensate them. However, with a shortage of nurses, shortage of optometrists, it seems there have been leaders in eye care over the years who have seen this coming, or who not even seen it coming as it is, but felt that we do not have adequate doctors, ophthalmologists, to meet the population need. When the cataract surgery rate is still under 1,000 per million population, when refractive error is still so huge. And that's what led to the advocacy for middle-level manpower training in ophthalmology by leaders of ophthalmology. It happened in IAPB, ICO, all the international organizations. They saw it. But unfortunately, the government and even we ourselves as professionals did not take cognizance of that. And if you look at few institutions, especially in India, who went along the MLOPs, that's a middle level, after practitioners level, they have those people trained to run the OR, to run their clinics, to go on outreach and have good refraction, to set up vision centers, and the result has been phenomenal. A good example is Aravind, LV Prasad, and India, more of it. We were lucky to be part of those who listened to some of of the leaders. And it's not, we have a lot of examples around us. I mean, when I was in IPB and all this, we had the opportunity to go to Gambia and see what was happening. Then Dr. Farr was in charge, and you have all the nurses and all we went to the rural area. Even then, they were practicing telemedicine. The nurses or who were the middle level manpower guy would take the picture, this day you send it by WhatsApp. I mean, there's a link whereby services are provided in the rural area by those who are trained for that purpose, and they know their limitations. There were the time for refractionists, so that a lot of people can get refraction. But the ophthalmic nurses and the optometrists kicked against it. But now, the optometrists can't cope. Where is the work? So we have to go back to the drawing board and embrace the training of the middle level ophthalmic practitioners. We in our foundation been lucky to have people who guided us, and we benefit from that. And a lot of people now are poaching from our pool, but at least we still train about 30 a year with Ogun State Health College of Technology. And a lot of these people have moved on to other states. And we also encourage them to do the international IJACAPO exams, whereby they can become ophthalmic assistants, they become ophthalmic technologists, and they can rise to a good level within the system. I think we should cooperate on this at this level. I think we should train more of them to take over some of the mundane things that we're using doctors for. I think they would do a good job in vision centers, in community outreach, and in the OR. I mean, some of them do block patients. Some of them prepare patients so the doctor can have the capacity to deal with more cases. It's now more or less being forced on us that we must look within and now to utilize those resources so that we free the doctors, we free the few nurses that are available to do more things at a higher level. I think it's very important we look at this and see how we're going to do the skill transfer. I think the leaders in ophthalmologists and those in community ophthalmologists and all this, not just saying you are a community ophthalmologist, but practicing community ophthalmologists, the primary goal should be to create a robust middle-level manpower ophthalmic practitioners and train specifically for specific things. They can have the operating room, they can have the procedures, refractions, and all this in the community. And they can have the few optometrists that are available to provide oversight functions, to see them as part of a team. What is lacking in our system, which I think we should embrace, unless the time will come, we forced it on us, is to really see that ophthalmic practice, eye care, is a teamwork. The ophthalmologists at the helm of affairs to coordinate the team, the optometrists, the ophthalmic nurses, and then the middle level manpower. If we can embrace that system, we'll probably be able to survive the tsunami of attrition that is going on. And we must be able to compensate them well. So it's very important for our own survival that we grasp all these things and make sure that we're really doing what is right. Well, I'm sure we make this a very good, let's make it a good sort of interaction so that I expect questions, and let's have a way where we can think together. Well, I'd like to let you know that in summary, the marketplace for talents has shifted. You need to think of employees like customers and put thoughtful attention and retaining them into a new perspective. And to slow this, we must slow down this attrition if we want to have a growth in the ophthalmic practice and market. And we should not ignore those that are already working with us over the years, passing into pain, taking up the pressure at the expense of a desire to have new people to join us. We must encourage them so that we can keep our business moving forward. So the leaders must ensure that they retrace their steps, engage the workforce, and create a new model that is inclusive. The only way you can change a system is to create a new model that makes the old model irrelevant. And that's what I think everybody should be thinking of now in order to survive. If you don't do it, there's a big price to pay. More organizations will collapse. Our practices will just not be the standard it used to be. And we as a leader of a team will have failed. So it's a clear call that we should be awake to our responsibility. We should be awake to mentoring these younger people, caring for them, engage them, look at not just motivating them by what we think, but engaging them and understand their ambition and where they want to go. And all leaders in the field of ophthalmology and eye care should ensure that this is happening. And I know if we do this, we might still save at least a good percentage of our relevance within the framework of the eye care system in Nigeria and beyond. Thank you very much for listening to me. Look forward to more questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan, for this very enlightening talk. I think you've actually helped to do justice also in putting a very nice summary to this, which includes, among other points that you've raised, that the era of people staying longer in employment is long gone. We have an employment tsunami around right now, and that we have to have a new model in order for organizations to be able to reduce and slow down their attrition and make sure that they're able to continue to deliver care effectively in these new times. Thank you so much again for that, Dr. Harriman. I'm sorry, Dr. Hassan, I beg your pardon. Before we move on to the Q&A session, Dr. Fowler's kindly called to our attention that that in the field of ophthalmology recently lost a giant in the name of Professor Marilyn Miller, and we also recognize that she was actually very renowned in the field of human resources, which is what you've actually had to talk about today. If you'd like to say a word about Professor Miller, Dr. Hassan, and then we'll observe a minute's silence in our memory and our honor for being a true professional and a friend of Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank Dr. Fa for bringing us that to our notice. Professor Miller has been a wonderful friend of ophthalmology in Nigeria and Sub-Saharan Africa and everywhere. She's a free spirit and she gives readily. She risks her life and everything she's got to help development of ophthalmology in Nigeria. My first interaction with her, which Dr. Fall also spanned, is in ABAC. She and her colleagues, were with OCOLES, the late Standard, and a lot of people helped to develop ABAC. And they also help a lot at the University of Calabar. And they have a great vision of integrated service between ABAC, University of Calabar, and even us in the private sector. That's what motivated us to go to Calabar then. She was the mother of modern pediatric ophthalmology in Nigeria. I remember I was the president of the Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria when she came, and we started the Nigerian pediatric ophthalmologist, and she was the first. She gave the first lecture, and there's a Mary Miller lecture that was named after her to date, which is being given. There's been an opening of by the Nigerian Pediatric Ophthalmologist Group. In WhatsApp, there's a WhatsApp group that's more or less ask everybody anybody who wants to pay tribute to Professor Miller can do that. The little I wrote there was a time in my friend Mary Miller's life that brings hope, love, compassion, honor, skill, and intelligence into many others' lives. She gave part of her best to Africa and the world. In our own case, and the memory of many generations of ophthalmologists to come, the good that she did will not just be entered with her bones, but live as an enduring legacy. Rest in perfect peace, my dear friend, and may God grant her eternal life. Thank you. May we please observe 1 minute silence in honor of a renowned ophthalmologist, Professor Mary Miller, who passed away on September 2021. May her gentle soul rest in peace.
Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. So now we'll take questions and comments. Please kindly post your questions or comments in the chat box. I'll just go through what we have so far. Mr. Salami says, a robust and well-calibrated and disciplined performance monitoring system is imperative for talent development. Thank you for that comment. And also he said, leaders are pathfinders while employees are the navigators. So therefore the employees are key internal stakeholders for the attainment of corporate objectives. Still, Mr. Salami, transitioning for human resources management to talent development. Well, I find that very interesting. So Dr. Hassan, are you able to help us shed some light on that in terms of the transition? Because what Mr. Salami is saying is that we are moving from a situation where you're not necessarily just managing human resources, but you're actually focusing on talent development. I think that's an interesting point there.
Yeah, he's very right. I mean, part of the human resources main goal is actually talent development. You have to, when you bring on people into the organizations, most of them will have the basic requirement. Nobody's on a full load scheme, and they're not all perfect. So you start watching them, and you'll be able to identify their talents and able to help them to develop that talents to maximum and be able to guide them through where they can use that talent to the benefit of organization. They might require a lot of training, and the company must be there to able to help them to grow. However, even then, when you invest in them, you must be able to identify other people with similar talents so that when they're trained within the period they are bonded within the system, they can clone themselves so that the organization, can get an impact of the investment in the system, so that even if the person you train should leave, he has left, a very good, robust system in place that the impact will not be needed, and those people can easily step into the shoes. So I quite agree with what he said.
Thank you very much, sir. We're still taking questions. Any further questions or comments? Please kindly post them in the comment box. We have all the previous talks on the Kunle Asanae Foundation Academy YouTube channel. So you can just Google on your YouTube and then type the Kunle Asanae Foundation Academy. You'll see all the past 7 series that we've had on there if you want to catch up with those as well. Are there any further questions or comments? So no new questions coming up. Is any other questions, comments, please kindly share in the text box. The next edition will be on the which will be the 9th in the series. We'll hold on the first Saturday of October, and we are going to 10 lectures in the series. So we'll have the final ones in December. I'd like to just say thank you again, Dr. Hassan, for your talk and for actually finding it worthwhile to share your experience and draw all your insight over the years to come up with the Founder Series, which has been rather enlightening, especially for young ones like us still coming off in the profession and carrying on with our careers, especially in the fast-changing world. We thank you again. Well, I would like to, in the absence of any other questions, I would like to thank everybody for joining. So we'll bring this session today to a close. Thank you for joining. Kindly again look on the YouTube channel of the Kunle Asanae Foundation Academy for the past lectures, and then the next one would hold more specifically on the 6th of November. That will be the 9th lecture in the series. Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan, again, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Until next time, thank you, and bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.